Okay. I love it when a plan comes together. Okay. Yay, our first challenge. Okay, so let's have a look. So what I wanted to do really is spend around about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes, having a look at the before and after service and the energy mapping service that we've launched recently over here in the UK, and just take you through it and see how useful it is to you, and you know, whether you can use it, whether you can replicate it, whatever it's going to be. Not a long presentation. I think we can get the bullet points over, you know, the main points sort of conveyed in the next 10, 15 minutes. And after that, I thought for the second 15 minutes, 20 minutes of the sort of webinar, we'd open it up to a general Q&A. So not just sort of any questions you've got about the aM&T services, but just generally anything about the Enistic services and how we can help you. Okay. So what I'm going to do is run through just a brief introduction of the company. I think, you know, we've got a variety of different people dialing in. I thought to spend 3 slides just saying that this is roughly who we are. Then I'll go on to the energy mapping service and describe that to you. In the energy mapping service, I'll be telling you about the way that we can go into a building, install some smart meters, take some readings, do some reports, take it all out again, job done. You know, so straight in and out service. And then the before and after service, which again, very similar to the energy mapping, but instead of doing the entire building, we tend to look at one thing. So, for example, lights or, you know, boiler installation, that type of thing. Okay. So, any questions as we go along? You know, please chip them in. Don't wait till the end unless you want to. You know, I'll take any questions people have. So, just a very brief recap on Enistic for you. We manufacture smart metering systems. You know, I think what's poshly termed these days as AMI, you know, advanced meter infrastructure products. Our systems are typically working on wireless technology. We have them deployed now in hundreds of installations. We have thousands of meters out in the field. We tend to take meters information back to our central database. And in terms of size, we process probably about 1.5 to 2 billion meter readings a month. So it's reasonably busy out there, reasonably busy. We were established in 2009, and we focus just on the commercial sector. And we're a trade supplier. So, you know, we focus largely on service companies, brokers, FM companies, any professional really that wants to understand their building's energy use in more detail. If you want to take a look at the system, this is a typical system diagram for our main components. If you've been using our stuff for a while, I know, Dean, you know, you've been using it, you should know this backwards by now. But it's split into different blocks. You know, you've got up here the gas and water meters, generally linked by a pulse. You've got up here plug-in meters, so we've built the smart meter into the tiny endpoint there. Distribution board meters, that's really where we focus on the services we're talking about, the energy mapping and the before and after. Fiscal meters, very accurate, take about 187,000 readings a second. So they're very, very accurate, and they give you penny perfect views of your incoming or wherever you want high accuracy results. And then we have a whole range of switches and sensors. And as a sneak peek, we have a building energy management system launched next month. So that I'm sure there'll be another seminar about that. And that will allow you to actually do full two-way control with a number of different switches and sensors linking into Modbus or bits and bobs like that. Okay. So the final one on ourselves.
Sorry, Daryl, can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
I don't know where the noise is, if it's on your side or someone else, one of the other participants, but it might be worthwhile just muting your mic until you want to say something.
That's a good idea. Brilliant. Okay, oh, that's better. That's better. Good idea. Well done. So here's some of the companies we sell to. You've got, there's some large names in there. We typically sell into medium-size organizations or medium-sized offices of larger organizations. So if, for example, you're building a new sports stadium, the Wembley job that came up a few years ago, that's not really our cup of tea. That's too big for us. But if you've got a factory that's mid-size engineering, or you've got, for example, a chain of one of our customers, for example, Pret-a-Manger, chain of sandwich shops, so we can take multiple installations from throughout the country and pull them all together for them. That's our cup of tea. If you've got a building holding 300-400 people, that's our cup of tea. So it's all of that sort of mid-range stuff. Because the cost of the system is in the hundreds of pounds, if not the thousands of pounds for the bigger installations, we tend not to get invited in for the smaller ones. So if you've got, for example, a corner shop, it's hard to make that work for us. And, there's no hard and fast rules, but typically our systems are used by companies spending typically £10,000 a year on electricity or more. It's that sort of size. Now let's take you on to the energy. There's some strange noises coming out there. Let's take you on to the energy mapping service here. So what is the energy mapping service? Well, it was brought in really on the back of one of our customers. So one of our customers has a series of motorway service stations. So they have a good number scattered through the UK, and when you pull over and you get sort of all the standard sandwiches and sort of retail outlets that they provide. And they wanted a firm view on what each retail unit within their establishment was consuming, so that they could then bill them back the energy. And they said to us, look, we're not at all interested in owning the meters. We've got zero desire to own smart meters or to be fixing up smart meter systems, but we're very interested in the data. Can you put together a service for us to deliver that? So we came back with this energy mapping service, partly as a response to that, where we can go into a service station, fit in a monitoring system for them, take full responsibility for the maintenance and running of that metering system, and delivered back to them a report giving them the information they're after. So the energy mapping service is a start-to-end system where we look to go into a organization, fit in a bunch of meters, typically 16 on a distribution board, and it's priced in blocks of 16. So that's the way our hardware works. And if you pointed us, for example, at a school, you might say, right, can you monitor that distribution board, that distribution board, that distribution board, and that distribution board? And we'd say, certainly, that's, X, Y, Z pounds. We'd go in, our engineers would fit in the metering system. We'd leave it running for a 4-week period, and they give you 2 reports back. The first report is an overview report after the first 7 days. And that's because we find that, some people don't want to wait until the end of the period just to see what the data is. So we give you a quick overview saying, look, this is the kind of data we're collecting. This is the kind of results we're getting. Does that work for you? And then at the end of a 4-week period, we'll produce another report, a little bit more in depth, a little bit more data in it, and then take the kit out. So that's the basis of the energy mapping service. It's on a fixed price basis, so you know what you're getting yourself into. And we take full responsibility as a company for the installation, maintenance, correct operation, and configuration of the service for you. Okay. Moving on. The target market for this is really aimed at anybody who wants some more in-depth information on what their building is using. Now, a number of people that we deal with are energy consultants, and they want to give their customers a sort of a plan on how they're going to save energy. So we're going to be looking at the windows, or be doing the boiler, or doing an LED refit. I think that the energy mapping service is a great way to start those projects off. So you can go into a new client, have an energy mapping service done, get an EMS report, And that should point out precisely where you should spend your effort. So we're dealing with one site at the moment, for example, that's got an energy spend of £1.7 million per year. It's quite a big site for us. That's certainly at the top end. But that site doesn't know where its energy is going. And so we're doing an EMS service for them at the moment, largely so they can then say, right, so here are the areas we're going to focus on. Here's the areas we're going to target. And these stuff over here, we might get to eventually, but it's not first priority for us. So that's the target market for us, really. Anybody who wants to understand where in a building their energy is going. We've put down here a few people, consultants, managers, facilities managers, energy professionals, etc. There's anyone really who wants to understand where the energy is going, but doesn't want all the faff of having to, buy, configure, install, run, maintain the actual metering system behind that to give them that data. What we give you is a couple of reports. So there's two real things you get out of it. You get the two reports, both the initial report and the final report, which we call an energy map. And that's got in it breakdowns of the circuit-by-circuit energy use. It's got breakdowns of the consolidated totals. It's got graphs. It's got data, etc., etc. You get all that. That should give you a fantastic starting point for finding out what to do. But as we're also internet-based, you can dial into that whenever you want during the project and take a look as you go along. So anybody who's used our software knows that it's got a huge number of reporting options and analysis options. And in there, you can obviously pull off any of the reports as you go along that you want that it's going to help you. The subject close to everyone's heart at the moment, I'm sure. We've priced it on a fixed price basis. So again, dealing with the service station chain, they don't really want us to have some sort of open-ended woolly sort of, let's go and have a survey and let's figure it all out, because by the time we've surveyed a site, to be honest, it pushes the price up by another engineering visit cost. So we set it at a fixed price, $799 for the first 16 metering points, and a further $199 for each block of 16 points thereafter. So that if you take, for example, a typical school for us might be having 3 or 4 distribution boards, you'd be talking about a cost there of, around about £1,200, £1,400. Or if you've got a small place and you just want an initial overview, $799. What you can do after that, imagine that you had a customer that you thought, right, okay, for example, this one who's spending 1.7 million, say, look, for them, let's give them an initial energy map to start with, and let's have a look at the top line results so we can do the initial main DB for you for $799. You can always extend it. We're quite happy to extend either the functions by adding more things on, so you can extend it out to further distribution boards once you know the customer is actually going to pay you some money, or indeed, the length. So you might find that, 4 weeks is not enough, and you run it for 8 weeks or 12 weeks. Again, not a problem. So a nice fixed price service, you know what you're getting. It's a great starting point, I think, for many projects and for many people just to say, I've got a bill last month of £6,000. Where's it going? This is a great way of sort of answering that question. I'm going to cover this off, then really this is the last slide of this section. So, then we'll break into Q&A. The before and after service, or the BAS, is the same sort of thing as the energy management service. It's the same service-focused delivery of AMI. So we found that people doing LED installations in the UK largely want some sort of measurement and verification of what they're doing. So one of my customers, for example, is doing a chain of plumbers merchants throughout the UK, and all they want is, when they fit an LED system, to prove to the customer that this LED installation has been worthwhile and is doing what they want it to do. They're delivering back the results rather than they promised. So they get us in on every installation we do for them with part of the cost in some respects. They just add it on to the total price of the job, so it's invisible to the customer. They don't know they're buying it separately, they just throw it in. And for the princely sum of $599, we'll give them a report. saying, look, this is what the energy use was before, and there's a nice graph with numbers bouncing along the top of the graph, and there's a red line when we do the installation, and then afterwards, sure enough, there's a lower line afterwards, so you can see the effect of the intervention they've made. So it's very similar to the energy mapping service, but it's only focused on one aspect. It's slightly cheaper as well, so because we've got less work to do. But typically, lighting, typically you might look at solar installation or something like that. Prove to me that the solar installation that you've done is delivering back what you say it's doing. And that's the before and after service. Again, it's a 4-week service, 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after. We have been asked by some people to do 1 week before and 1 week after, so it's flexible, and we don't mind either way. And the delivery for that, as I say, is just really a before and after report saying this is what was before, jink. Sure enough, this is what it is afterwards. So there you go. They're the services in a nutshell. To encourage you, anybody who wants to place any orders this week will knock 5% off the price. This, I believe, what they call in marketing terms is the call to action, saying, look, if you want one, try it out, see if it works for you. Not a lot of money, it's affordable, and it will deliver back, the starting point to many a project, or with a before and after service, the verification you need for your clients. So that's the services aspect I wanted to describe to you. Just one thing for you is since launching these services, they've been very successful. We only launched them, Paul, when was it?
That's about 3 or 4 weeks ago.
3 or 4 weeks ago. And I'd say that in the UK, I'd say in that time, 50% of my revenue thereabouts from the UK has been made up from these before and after services. So they're doing well. People like the simplicity of them. People like because they know what they're getting. There's no sort of hidden cost about repeat engineer visits, or you don't need a 30 amp clamp, you need a 200 amp clamp, wherever it's going to be. All of that just is out. It's just nice and simple. You know what you're getting. You know what it costs, and it delivers back very specific reports for what the services do.